In 1948, an American family could disappear into the mountains for 2 weeks carrying little more than an axe, a fishing pole, a canvas tent, and a coffee pot. They built shelters, gathered firewood, caught dinner, drank from mountain springs, and left with stories instead of receipts. Today, many of those same camping traditions could earn you fines reaching thousands of dollars in much of the United States. These were ordinary camping skills passed from grandparents to children for generations, not survival tricks reserved for experts. Some remained perfectly normal well into the 1970s. We are counting down 25 of them, from the simplest camp comforts to a #1 entry that was not a single skill at all, but an entire philosophy of living outdoors that has almost disappeared. It begins with something as basic as a good night's sleep. In the 25th place, cutting pine boughs for camp beds once marked the first act of settling into the wild. For generations, families, scouts, and hunters gathered fresh evergreen branches to build thick, springy mattresses beneath their canvas tents. The scent of pine and the soft, resilient boughs kept sleepers warm and dry, lifting them above cold, damp ground. This simple comfort was so common that it appeared in every Boy Scout handbook and countless family memoirs. But by the late 1970s, a wave of new regulations swept across public lands. Removing live boughs became a misdemeanor under federal law, with fines reaching thousands of dollars. Conservation rules now protect every branch, and what was once an ordinary act of camp housekeeping is now a forbidden impact, an early signal that the freedom to shape the land for comfort had quietly vanished from American camping. In the 24th place, building a permanent stone fire ring once marked the heart of a lasting family campsite. For decades, the ritual began with gathering river stones and carefully stacking them in a tight circle, creating a fireplace meant to endure through weeks of use. The same ring would host morning coffee, midday meals, and stories told by firelight, its stones blackened by countless nights of warmth and cooking. This tradition was passed down as a mark of good campcraft, evidence of stewardship and self-reliance. But as the leave no trace ethic took hold and wildfire fears grew, these stone circles turned from badges of skill into scars on the land. Federal rules now forbid constructing new rings, with fines reaching thousands of dollars. Today, even the act of arranging stones for a fire is seen as a permanent impact, a visible reminder of how the meaning of responsible camping has changed. In the 23rd place, gathering deadfall firewood once defined the daily rhythm of camp life. For generations, campers scoured the forest floor for fallen branches and standing dead timber, treating every stick as fair game for the evening fire. This ritual was more than a chore. It was a lesson in resourcefulness, passed down in every scout troop and family outing. The crackle of a fire built from scavenged wood meant warmth, safety, and a sense of belonging in the wild. But as ecological science advanced, the view shifted. Fallen wood, once seen as disposable, became recognized as vital habitat for insects, birds, and fungi, and as a crucial part of soil health. Regulations swept through national parks and state lands, outlawing or tightly controlling wood collection to protect these delicate systems. Today, what was once an act of stewardship is often met with fines and strict enforcement. The forest floor, now left untouched, marks a turning point in the story of American camping, a move from hands-on living to a landscape shaped by rules and caution. In the 22nd place, digging tent drainage trenches once stood as an ordinary act of camp housekeeping. Before waterproof floors and synthetic tarps, a shallow trench carved around a canvas tent meant the difference between a dry night and a flooded bedroll. From Boy Scout jamborees to family expeditions, nearly every camper learned to slice a narrow channel to guide rainwater away, a simple defense against summer storms. Military field manuals and outdoor guides treated trenching as basic wisdom, not advanced survival. But as public land rules evolved, this practical gesture became classified as ground disturbance, a threat to fragile soils and a cause of erosion. Today, federal regulations in most state parks forbid even the smallest trench, with fines that can reach thousands of dollars. The old habit of shaping the earth for comfort has faded, replaced by a new ethic that leaves every campsite untouched. In the 21st place, sleeping inside a natural rock shelter once felt like the ultimate act of belonging to the land. A low sandstone overhang or shallow cave offered instant protection from sudden storms, biting wind, or the chill of mountain air. For generations, campers saw these formations as nature's own roof, ready to shield a family or a troop of scouts without a single tool or tent stake. Early outdoor manuals praise the wisdom of finding such a spot, and photographs from the 1950s show families curled under ancient stone, the firelight flickering on rough walls. But as the decades passed, the meaning of these places changed. The rise of cave preservation laws, fears over fragile formations, and the urgent need to protect bat colonies from white nose syndrome led to sweeping access bans. Today, most public lands treat caves and rock shelters as sensitive habitat, closed to sleeping and often to entry altogether. What was once a mark of a seasoned camper using the land as shelter has become a rare exception, a memory of when wild spaces truly offered refuge for the night. In the 20th place, drinking straight from a mountain spring once defined the spirit of trust in the American wild. For generations, a clear, cold stream tumbling from the rocks meant safety. No filter, no boiling, just a cupped hand and the taste of glacier melt. Campers, scouts, and families alike relied on this unwritten rule, confident that the land itself would provide pure water if you knew where to look. But as waterborne illnesses surfaced and scientific studies revealed invisible threats, this simple act faded from the outdoor routine. The Clean Water Act of 1972 marked a turning point, shifting the wisdom from sight and flow to test strips and treatment tablets. Today, even the most pristine spring demands caution, and the old ritual of trusting the mountain's gift is now a memory, replaced by a new ethic of protection and prevention. In the 19th place, washing clothes and dishes in streams was once woven into the fabric of American camp life. Before portable sinks and carry-out systems, families and scout troops gathered at the water's edge, scrubbing plates, pots, and socks with sand or a bar of soap as the current swept away the suds. The stream served as both supply and sink, a place where chores became part of the landscape's daily rhythm. But as scientific understanding of waterborne bacteria grew and the Clean Water Act took hold, this practice shifted from ordinary hygiene to a source of contamination. Today, washing anything in a natural stream is banned on nearly all public lands, with fines reaching thousands of dollars. What once sounded like a river song now marks a chapter closed by the need to protect fragile waterways. In the 18th place, harvesting wild edible plants once marked the true spirit of self-reliant camping. Along the edge of any trail, families and scout troops gathered wild onions, cattails, watercress, berries, and nuts, treating the landscape as a living pantry. This was not the domain of survival experts, but a routine part of every outing, fresh food drawn straight from the ground and streamside, woven into the daily rhythm of camp life. Generations passed down the skill of recognizing safe and abundant plants, making foraging as normal as pitching a tent. But as conservation laws expanded and the list of protected species grew, the freedom to gather faded. Today, most public lands ban or tightly control plant collection, with permits required and penalties reaching thousands of dollars. What was once a simple act of living off the land has become a rare exception, a memory of a wilder, more self-sufficient America. In the 17th place, cutting saplings for camp furniture once defined the art of shaping a home in the wild. With a hatchet and a practiced eye, campers selected young, straight trees to build tables for meals, chairs for rest, racks for drying clothes, and poles to hang lanterns above the night's gathering. These pieces were never meant to last. Their value lay in the comfort and order they brought to each temporary camp. Generations of families, scouts, and trappers saw this as a mark of self-reliance, turning the raw forest into a working, living space. But as public lands came under stricter protection, the act of cutting live vegetation became a symbol of resource damage. Today, nearly every national park and state forest bans the harvest of saplings, with fines that can reach thousands of dollars. The freedom to craft a personalized camp from the land itself has faded, replaced by the expectation that every site remains untouched, and every camper leaves no trace of their passing. In the 16th place, building a log lean-to shelter once stood as the signature act of claiming a piece of wild country for the night. With nothing but a hatchet, an eye for straight saplings, and the patience to stack logs into a slanted frame, campers shaped a wall against the wind and rain. The open front faced the fire, while the thick roof of poles and brush turned a patch of forest into a temporary home. This was the knowledge every scout, trapper, and family camper carried, a skill passed quietly from hand to hand, deeply woven into American campcraft. But as public lands filled with visitors and the scars of makeshift structures multiplied, new rules swept in. Today, federal and state regulations treat the construction of log lean-tos as prohibited resource disturbance, with fines and enforcement replacing the old pride of shelter building. The freedom to shape a refuge from the living woods has faded, replaced by a landscape of tents and strict boundaries marking a clear divide between the self-reliance of the past and the regulated order of the present. In the 15th place, catching fish for every meal once defined the rhythm of life at waterside camps across America. Families pitched their tents within casting distance of rivers and lakes, expecting to draw breakfast, lunch, and dinner straight from the water. Fishing was more than a pastime, it was a daily necessity, woven into the fabric of camp routines from dawn until dusk. Children learned to bait hooks and clean trout before they could read, and the promise of a fresh catch shaped every menu. But as the decades passed, this freedom narrowed. State after state introduced licensing requirements, strict catch limits, and closed seasons, transforming a birthright into a regulated privilege. Conservation laws and wildlife management replaced the old certainty that the land would always provide. Today, what was once an ordinary act of self-reliance is now bound by permits and penalties, a vivid marker of how the American camping experience has shifted from living off the land to following the rules of recreation. In the 14th place, hunting small game around camp once fed families and shaped the daily rhythm of American outdoor life. Rabbits, grouse, and squirrels were more than just sport. They were the practical staples of campfire stews and skillet breakfasts, caught within earshot of the tent. From the earliest frontier cabins to mid-century scout jamborees, nearly every camper knew how to set a snare or bring down a squirrel for the pot. This skill was handed down as common sense, not expert craft, woven into family tradition and regional cuisine. But as wildlife populations dwindled and public lands filled with visitors, a new era of management arrived. Seasons, tags, and strict limits replaced open harvest, transforming what was once a daily necessity into a regulated privilege. Today, hunting near camp is governed by a web of permits and enforcement, a clear sign of how the freedom to live off the land has narrowed with each passing decade. In the 13th place, carrying a full-size axe was once the silent promise of self-reliance at any American campsite. From the 1920s through the post-war decades, a heavy axe traveled with every family, scout troop, and hunting party, its polished head and worn handle serving as both tool and totem. With a single blade, campers split firewood, cleared brush, shaped tent poles, and even crafted emergency shelters. One instrument for every need. Manuals and magazines called it the mark of a prepared outdoorsman, a skill passed down from father to son. But as campground policies shifted and safety concerns mounted, the axe's place in camp life faded. Lighter gear, fire restrictions, and a new culture of caution pushed the old axe to the margins, leaving behind a memory of when a single tool could open the wild and keep a family warm through the night. In the 12th place, open fires once marked the heart of American camping, wherever the journey led. A riverside, a mountain ridge, or a quiet lakeshore, each was fair ground for a crackling campfire, with no permits, no posted warnings, and no thought of restriction. The fire was a constant companion, warming hands, cooking meals, and gathering families beneath the stars. This freedom was so woven into outdoor life that it appeared in every manual and family story, the expectation that a fire could be built wherever camp was pitched. But as wildfires swept across the West and conservation science deepened, the landscape changed. Today, seasonal burn bans, strict fire zones, and permit systems govern when and where flames may flicker. What was once an unquestioned right has become one of the most regulated acts in the outdoors, a vivid marker of the shift from personal judgment to public policy in the American wilderness. In the 11th place, collecting driftwood along rivers once defined the art of riverside camping. For generations, families and scouts treated the tangled wood left by spring floods as a gift, fuel for the evening fire, poles for a makeshift rack, or a bench beside the water. The riverbank was a living supply line, its driftwood gathered without a second thought, woven into the daily rhythm of camp life. But as ecological science advanced, the meaning of those scattered logs changed. Conservationists recognized driftwood as vital habitat for fish, birds, and insects, and as a natural shield against erosion. Federal and state rules now forbid or tightly control driftwood removal on most public lands, with fines and enforcement replacing the old freedom to scavenge. What once seemed like harmless resourcefulness has become a rare exception, marking another quiet boundary between the American camper's past and present. In the 10th place, building wooden camp kitchens once transformed a campsite into a bustling outdoor household. With hatchets and rope, families and scout troops constructed sturdy prep tables, food racks, and hanging systems right on site, turning raw forest into a space for daily work and shared meals. These semi-permanent kitchens stood for weeks or even an entire season, their shelves filled with tin plates and coffee pots, their racks hung with bacon and bread. For generations, the ability to create a working kitchen from scratch was a badge of practical wisdom, woven into every long-term campout. But as public lands filled and the leave no trace ethic took hold, these handmade structures became symbols of lasting impact. Modern restoration rules now require that campsites show almost no trace of human presence, making the old tradition of building wooden kitchens a memory. One more sign that the wild, once shaped to fit the needs of self-reliant families, is now a place where even the simplest comforts must be packed in and packed out. Number 9, trapping small animals for food once stood at the heart of American campcraft, a skill as basic as building a fire or pitching a tent. For decades, every Boy Scout handbook and field guide included clear diagrams for setting simple snares or box traps, teaching children and families to catch rabbits, squirrels, or grouse near camp. In the wild places of the 1930s and 1940s, this was not the secret knowledge of trappers, but a practical lesson in survival and resourcefulness. A handful of sticks, a bit of string, and a careful eye could mean the difference between an empty pot and a warm meal. But as wildlife populations declined and the ethic of conservation took hold, the landscape of legality shifted. New laws required trapping permits, restricted trap types, and banned most snares outright on public lands. Humane standards and wildlife protection statutes narrowed the practice to a tightly regulated, often controversial sphere. Today, what was once a common, even expected part of outdoor knowledge is now a rare exception. One more sign that the freedom to live off the land has been replaced by a system of rules, permits, and boundaries. 8th place, building brush fences around camp once marked the invisible line between the wild and a family's temporary home. With a practiced eye, campers gathered fallen limbs and leafy branches, weaving them into rough barriers that circled their tents and fire. These fences served as more than just a boundary. They protected sleeping children from stray livestock, kept curious wildlife at bay, and defined a sense of order in the untamed woods. For generations, this was a lesson passed from parent to child, a way to claim a patch of wilderness as safe and known. Old hunting camps and scout handbooks treated the brush fence as practical planning, a first act of stewardship. But as conservation rules tightened and the leave no trace ethic took hold, the act of shaping the landscape, even with dead branches, became discouraged or outright banned. Today, most public lands forbid leaving visible barriers behind, erasing the old impulse to defend and define camp as a distinctly human space. The freedom to mark your place in the woods has faded, replaced by a new expectation. The land must look untouched, as if you were never there at all. Number 7. Creating permanent hunting camps once marked the border between a brief visit and a season-long home in the wilderness. Hunters and trappers returned year after year to the same handcrafted site, building up cabins from logs, stashing supplies in hidden caches, and assembling fixed cooking spots that turned a patch of wild land into a trusted base. These camps grew over time. Walls thickened, storage bins multiplied, and the fire ring became a permanent hearth for stories and strategy. This tradition was more than convenience. It was a ritual of belonging, a way for families and friends to claim a piece of the woods as their own. But the rise of public land management and conservation law brought sweeping change. Today, federal and state rules strictly limit long-term occupancy, caching, and the construction of unauthorized structures. The old dream of returning to a familiar camp each season has faded, replaced by temporary sites and a patchwork of permits. What was once a symbol of self-reliance and continuity now stands as a memory, edged out by a new era of regulated, leave-no-trace recreation. Number 6. Gathering natural roofing materials once marked the final patient step in building a true wilderness shelter. After shaping a frame from branches and saplings, campers turned to the land for the roof itself, stripping bark from birch or cedar, weaving thick mats of grass, or layering palm fronds to shed rain and wind. The skill demanded deep local knowledge and a careful hand, with each region offering its own time-tested solutions. For generations, these weatherproof coverings signaled not just craftsmanship, but a quiet intimacy with the landscape. Children learned to spot the right tree, peel bark in long strips, and lay each piece with the grain to keep the shelter dry through a storm. But as the ethic of conservation took hold, the rules changed. Modern regulations now forbid stripping bark or gathering living plant material on nearly all public lands, treating these acts as resource damage with fines that can reach thousands of dollars. What was once the proud finish of a handmade camp now stands as a memory, a chapter closed by the need to protect every tree and blade of grass for the generations that follow. Number 5, carving trees to mark trails once stood as both a rite of passage and an act of quiet authority in the American backwoods. With a hatchet or knife, campers and scouts would slice a blaze into the bark, a single-angled cut, or perhaps a simple arrow, leaving behind a living signpost for those who followed. These marks, etched into centuries-old trunks, told stories of safe crossings, hidden springs, or the way home after a long day's wander. For generations, this was the language of the wild, a system passed down from pioneer trappers to modern families, making the forest legible to anyone with the skill to read its living code. But as the ethic of tree protection took hold and the scars of countless blazes accumulated, new rules swept in. Today, public land managers classify carving as resource damage, with fines and enforcement replacing the once unquestioned freedom to shape the land for navigation. Official trail markers now stand where personal blazes once guided the way, and the old impulse to leave a sign, direct, practical, and personal, has faded into memory, another mark erased by the changing story of American camping. Number 4, living entirely off the land once defined the essence of American camping. For families and scouts from the 1920s through the 1950s, stepping into the wild meant drawing every necessity, food, water, firewood, and comfort, directly from the landscape. Hunting, fishing, foraging, and gathering wood were not dramatic feats of survival, but the ordinary rhythm of camp life, passed quietly from parent to child. A canvas tent, a simple axe, and a coffee pot were enough to vanish into the woods for weeks, trusting skill and knowledge to fill every need. But as conservation laws multiplied and modern gear replaced old habits, this all-in approach faded. Today, nearly every element, harvesting plants, trapping, collecting wood, drinking untreated water, faces restrictions, permits, or outright bans. The shift from living off the land to bringing everything in marks a profound transformation. Self-reliance, once the heart of camping, has become a memory, replaced by a culture of managed recreation and careful boundaries. Number 3, building complete wilderness shelters once blurred the line between camping and true frontier living. In the deep woods, families, scouts, and backcountry wanderers raised log cabins, pole shelters, and semi-permanent camps that stood for weeks or even months. These structures went far beyond a simple tent. Walls of stacked logs, roofs of hand-cut poles, and carefully notched joints turned the forest into a home. For earlier generations, this was ordinary wisdom, passed down as a mark of self-reliance and belonging to the land. But as public lands filled and the conservation movement gathered force, the rules changed sharply. The Wilderness Act of 1964 and a wave of federal regulations banned unauthorized construction, treating every unpermitted shelter as a scar on the landscape. Today, building a cabin or even a sturdy pole shelter without permission is strictly forbidden on nearly all public lands, with fines and enforcement replacing the old pride of craftsmanship. The freedom to shape a lasting refuge from the living woods has faded, replaced by portable tents and a culture of minimal impact, a clear and final divide between the era of self-built camps and the regulated wilderness of today. In the second place, the very way Americans once viewed public forests shaped an entire era of camping. Through the early and mid-20th century, these wild lands were seen not as distant preserves, but as working landscapes, places where families, scouts, and trappers lived, gathered, harvested, and built what they needed to survive. The forest was a living pantry and workshop open to those who knew its rhythms. Skills like collecting firewood, foraging, building shelters, and marking trails felt as natural as breathing, woven into daily camp life and handed down as common knowledge. But as conservation and preservation movements gained ground, the ethic shifted. Public lands were gradually redefined as spaces to be protected, their resources left untouched, and their use restricted to careful recreation. Modern regulations now emphasize minimal impact, limiting or banning the same acts that once marked a camper's self-reliance. This philosophical transformation did more than outlaw skills. It recast the very idea of what it means to belong in the wild, drawing a line between the freedom of the past and the boundaries of today. And finally, in first place, the greatest forgotten skill is not a single technique, but the entire philosophy of self-reliant camping. For generations, American families, scouts, and outdoorsmen believed that true campcraft meant making life work directly from the land, building shelter from what the forest offered, drawing water from springs, cooking over wood gathered by hand, and harvesting food with knowledge passed quietly from parent to child. This wasn't a set of isolated tricks. It was a shared wisdom, a way of being at home in the wild, shaped by confidence in one's own hands and judgment. The landscape itself was a partner, not a backdrop, and every act, pitching a canvas tent, cutting boughs for bedding, lighting a fire in the rain, was a lesson in belonging. But over the past half-century, that freedom has faded. Conservation laws, wildfire prevention, wildlife protection, and new attitudes toward public land transformed the open invitation of the woods into a patchwork of boundaries, permits, and prohibitions. Today, the old mindset survives only in scattered demonstrations, on private land, or in the memories of those who learned it before the rules changed. The shift from self-reliance to regulated recreation marks not just the loss of individual skills, but the quiet end of a whole way of living outdoors, a chapter of American life now preserved in stories, photographs, and the echo of a vanished freedom. Across all 25 forgotten skills, one pattern stands clear. America's camping tradition shifted from lived self-reliance to regulated recreation. Laws born of wildfire, conservation, and public safety slowly replaced the old outdoor wisdom handed down through generations. This isn't just a loss of technique, it's the fading of an American inheritance. What we regulate, we remember differently. Which of these lost skills do you wish you could experience? Share your thoughts below.